Hello, video on the content creator store champs that we got to go to, which we're always very lucky and very fortunate to be invited. I can say now though, we did not make it a triple win in a row, sadly. Sadly, we lost out on this one. We actually had a pretty rough day. It was a small room. The way they've changed it now is it will be a 16 people event, so it's just 4 rounds of Swiss into a top 4, and I'm assuming that's all just for time restraints and everything. There's nothing else going on there, but we brought it down there and it was kind of mad. I assumed there was going to be a lot of Amber Steel aggro. I didn't assume there was going to be a lot of counters for Amber Steel aggro, and that's kind of actually what put me on a dampener to going to play Blurple for a weekend instead of running this back when we played Axiom, because we did this just before Axiom as well. So yeah, but it was a very good weekend. It was a very fun time. I'm always grateful. We got invited down. Ali managed to win the she came second, sorry, at the Disney quiz, which was awesome. Really showed the Disney knowledge there. My Disney knowledge is very much lacking, I'll admit, but you know what, I always take an opportunity to learn more things. But yeah, the games we played, I've got a bit more to talk about this and a very positive upside on this. I'm not saying we should all swap the Blurple, because by the end of the video I'll be able to tell you the good aspects of this list and how it's helped other people. But yeah, when we played it, we went down there and it was pretty much everyone I talked to said they'd either teched for Amber, like they pretty much had teched for Amber Steel. Their list, if their list wasn't built to beat it, their list had cards in it that were there to beat it. So it was techs and lists. And we started off the round 1 versus Kim from, Kim and Kawa. And she was on Ruby Sapphire Workshop, which I don't believe is a direct counter to Amber Steel aggro. You're probably favored in it, I'd assume, but when they get the Sisus and the Bell Pops and the free Scrooges and they B preps and the big Sisus, and you're just feeling like they have an answer for everything that you play. I'll admit, for me personally, I've never enjoyed that matchup too much, and especially in this build where we focused more in on being able to be hyper aggro and hyper control, or we tried to find a mid-range in it with this hybrid version called Let's Get Ready to Rumble. So yeah, even that felt pretty rough, because we're drawing, if we play a Doc and we draw 2 Zeuses, or we draw an Ursula and a Zeus, or we just draw things that we don't need for that matchup, we gas out pretty quickly and we lose. As well, like, it's never taken that seriously, but we're not going to tell each other what decks we're playing before we play, or sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But I had no idea what she was going to play. I think it was mentioned she had like 5 choices to pick from and played one that she hadn't played before, and I knew she was big on Ruby Sapphire, so assumed she'd played Workshop before. She hadn't, and we were going into that matchup mulliganing a bit differently, maybe for a bit more of a mirror. I was keeping the Ursula and the Zeuses and cards like that. So yeah, that was a bit of a struggle really to get even the win there. So that was a painful matchup, and a sort of a start to the day. We had actually sleeved up Amber Steel Song with the Whole New World in it, so I was very grateful I didn't play that in the end, because that would have been very rough round 1. Then into round 2, we played against gentleman James, I think his name is, and he played Flingerdingers, which, if you're not used to that version of RP, it is actually kind of a painful matchup for this deck, mainly because they can just fling damage onto Rhino, they can do very good trades and then just move the damage over, in a sense healing their characters up. And it's one I hadn't really played that much. I just heard that it was a rough matchup, and I think a lot of people don't expect Flingerdingers because it kind of just loses to the standard RP, so why not just play standard RP? But in that environment in Store Champs, it was a very good pick for it, I think. And yeah, we managed to get a win on that one, but it was still just like the hardest thing that we had to do. It was just such a real struggle and uphill battle to try win that one. And yeah, again, 5-6 cards, that I think that entire deck is kind of built in a way that it can handle Amber Steel aggro pretty effectively. They can get the queen down, and they can use Crab to move to run something in, then they can move the damage over with Pain, and then they can use Bell, and then they just win off the top end because they top it off with a giant Hades that's just going to basically be like a Hiram for them, whilst also doing their game plan of putting damage on the board and flinging it around. So that was just rough. I don't really know how we managed to win that one. I believe they missed their turn 3, and we saw that as an opportunity just to aggro them out. But we also played Lorcana Villain, and again, just really brutal Queen of Hearts on 2 into Medusa. They had all of those techs in there. They were on a standard RP build. They had no 1-drops in it though. That was quite interesting, but to be honest with you, I think that's a lot better for them. They don't really need the one drop. It doesn't deal with anything on in my deck, and likely chances I'm just going to sing a song on it and remove it. So they buffed up the 4 drops, the 2 drop slot, sorry, and put more characters with 4 health in it, so they could do their deal damage with Medusa, crab buff things, run it in, and survive a trade versus a Smee, and all those things. And that was brutal. And we just got murdered in that matchup. And then because it's kind of standard RP, they can still just top it off with some Peter Pans and Iagos, and they can Peter Pan or Genie, maybe not Iago, into some Mauis, and then put a Maui Shark on the board, and then you can't really turn sideways, and it's just really brutal. And I did not enjoy that too much. But during that day, we got to break it up with a bit of a quiz, so that made it all fun. And to be honest with you, it's just a real fun event to do. So I'm always grateful I get invited down. And we finally ended it off playing, I think it was a sort of winning matchup versus Alphos, who was on the Blurple list that I'd brought him, and ended up being the Blurple list that we played in Axion. And yeah, it's kind of in my practice as well. I've always felt Blurple is not too bad into Ambassador aggro. They do have to get certain key pieces. They have to get Belle. They have to get Elsa, Genie, and and the 5-cost Belle as well. And they have to get all these pieces together and for it to work. And yeah, we managed to win one on the play, and then just using Belle to move the damage over, removing our stuff. I was also playing characters. It's all just very rough gameplay, in my opinion, and we just ended up losing that one. And altogether, and then Harvey went on to go and win the entire event with Blurple, which is awesome. I'm sure he'll do a post about it the same time that I do a post about it as well. But yeah, it was a really great day, and I just felt like, when you sometimes just get in a bit of a bad headspace because, if everyone's teching for it here, when I go to the next event, it's all going to be techs as well, and it's all going to be just a really hard matchup. And I rightfully so, if you're preparing for a room, Ambassador aggro is a deck that you want to have a bit of a target on. So I just really wasn't ready for it, and I didn't bring it to Axiom. But this is the positive side of the deck and the list, and why I think it's really worth still playing and still bringing it and still using it if it's something that's really interested you. The gentleman who was the most consistent player over the entire weekend of Axion, the player who came first on the Sunday, and I think he was top 8 on the Saturday, and still he's only lost that entire day, was that top 8 game where the deck just didn't do its thing. That was the only game he lost the entire weekend, was running the list. The only difference was he dropped the Svens, which are in my list, and just buffed up the Lawrence slot, which, to be honest with you, could probably just make the deck a bit more consistent. I think as well he tried it with Aerials, he tried it with a couple other cards, but he just went back to this and stuck with it. So of course we did not have the best day with it, but someone managed to take what we'd created and only drop one game the entire weekend at Axion over 15 rounds or however many we played. I think it was 15. He would have played more, actually, sorry, because he made the cut. So over 16 games he only dropped one round, which is just staggering. And yeah, he exactly the same. He said all of the things that I've been sort of hoping the deck could do and talking about it, and they all worked for him. When he needed it to be control, he could lean into the control and sing Zeus and delete targets. When he needed to be aggro, he could just go in for, Lady into Piglet and get some daisies down and start questing. And he just said it really worked. I think the only loss was he managed to dock into double Zeus or something, which, again, when you play 4 copies of Zeus, this is something that you kind of have to assume will happen to you. You would hope it doesn't happen in your top 8 game. I think you would much prefer that happen in one of his rounds of Swiss rather than one of the more vital games. But that's the kind of high roll and the thing that you have to expect when you're building with this list. And he didn't seem to beat up on it. He went on to Sunday and stormed the Sunday and didn't drop a game there for the entire day. So I think altogether, yeah, if I'm to play Amber Steel again, which I still have this sleeved, I still like playing this, I would play this more hybrid version. I think the Vinny one still has a lot of good points. It does feel a bit though like players have learned what Vinny is, and that Vinny might hit the board at some point and they'll save removal for it, or they'll play around it. Whereas this, if you need to lean back into being a bit more control-based, you can do that. If you need to lean into, I just need to finish this game and aggro them out, you can do that. You still got a ton of Rapunzel traps in there with Lawrence and Rhino and Daisy. Even the Ursa, that's why we used Ursula over Troubadour, because it's another card that can be used as a Rapunzel trap. But altogether, yeah, I think for store champs, which is coming up soon, which is why I get to do all these lovely things. The content creator store champs, I think it's still a very, very strong choice. And to the point where I'm going to say, if you're not playing it, I think you need to be thinking about it. And of course, like I said, I didn't think Blurple had that bad a game into it. In all my testing, it felt fine. I think some of these RP decks can put in cards that make it a lot better into it. And then there's a bunch of decks that I just don't think will have much game into it. I think maybe Green Steel is pretty good into it, but it also can just fall flat and miss its Ursulas and miss its early pressure. And they've won the game before you get to a point where you can start using the muses and high rolling the game. So yeah, altogether, I think this is still probably my top pick for store champs, with Blurple being probably not that far behind it. I'm feeling like, I don't know, it's maybe that list's getting a bit too much attention, and people are trying to beat it. And some of those matchups, it doesn't matter how skilled you are, I feel like you really can't get much of an edge into Ruby Amethyst, Shark of Blurple. But we're still talking about Amber Steel aggro here. Yeah, I think this is also can be your like pick up and play deck, but also has a lot of depth, which is always my main selling point on most aggro lists. Or I mean, I think this is more of an aggro list than it is a mid-range list. I know it's the hybrid version, but I think it's more of the aggro based version. And with these sort of decks, I always feel like they are easy to pick up. You know, you've always got that default of I'm just going to play everything and turn it sideways. And then there's so much depth here with different matchups, learning the mulligans a lot better. So there's always, it's something that always excites me about aggro, is that you can pick it up and from the get-go you're playing the game and you're probably winning more than you're losing, or you're still in with a chance fighting. If you're to basically start playing Lorcana at locals for the first time, you pick up an aggro deck and you can just get out of the gates running, and then you go into the depth of like, so why do I have Sven in here? Why am I restanding my characters? And when is the best time to turn Rhino sideways? And should I be shifting him, or can I wait a couple turns and shift him? So yeah. Store Champs is coming up. It'll be starting the next weekend, I believe, and we've got 5 weekends of it, which is actually kind of awesome for going from like a little bit less DLC news to there's 5 weekends of Store Champs, and I hope people enjoy them. But yeah, this would still be my strongest pick, even if I did not have the best time of it. We're still working with variants and everything like that. But yeah, if anyone is still on the Amber Steel hype train, I believe a lot of people are, please let me know how you get on, and let me know if anyone's tried a list like this. And if you've tried a more hybrid-based one, let me know what other cards you might have tried out. I think the Goofies could work in there as well. I think you could easily just take Sven out and put Goofy in there, just to give you more sort of resilience and standing things up, especially against a lot of the rush matchups, and maybe even the mirror. You know, you're just in a stalemate where you're top decking, but every turn your Smee gets to heal and it gets to quest for 2. So I think easily you could drop that Sven and put Goofy in there, the legendary Goofy, the chef one. So yeah, really great experience, really fun, and definitely this list is a strong pick for Store Champs.